right. Today's session is relating to twists. Once more, we've had several weeks of focusing on twists and sometimes as companions for other yoga poses that we do. And today I'm coupling them with baby backbends. What is a baby backbend? It's a backbend that lets you warm up your spine gently in a gentle manner. So let's begin. You won't need a great deal of props. It's good to have a block, a belt, a bolster, and a blanket. And you don't even need a wall space necessarily in this session. So let's begin with standing and doing a breathing exercise. Come on up. This manner of breathing is one that I learned when I was a beginning yoga student in Iyengar yoga, and that would be in the late 70s. And it's simple, and I've readopted it, even though I've let it go for a long time, probably because it was seemed too simple. But now I think of it as more connecting parts that we need to maintain and strengthen. So, having said that, in some other classes that you'll find on the channel, we focused on breathing into the upper part of the chest and the upper lungs, but also in the sides of the chest and the side lungs, and then incorporating the core muscles as we go along. So just add that to some of the elements to focus on. Really, it's all about focus and awareness, isn't it, when you do yoga? That's the most important thing. So here, begin by just turning your arms out. And that rotation is from not just your arms, but from right at the top where your arms are into the shoulder joint. So it feels like the shoulders are opening out. And then relax behind your knees. Just soften your buttocks a little bit so they're not clenched. And then on an inhalation, bring your arms up and overhead. Filling your chest right up to the top. And on an exhalation, bring the arms back down to your side. Feel as you begin to fill the lungs, that you can bring the breath out into the sides of the rib cage. And as you breathe out, incorporating the core muscles and maybe even the pelvic floor. So go at your own pace here. That's what's most important, is you find a rhythm that suits your capacity and also how it feels in the shoulder joint, in that shoulder joint movement. We can start the inhalation just before you start the movement. And the movement stops, and then the inhalation continues for just a little bit more. And similarly with the exhalation, and exhaling right at the top. And finishing the movement, and then finishing the exhalation. So then you're also allowing the breath to frame the movement, because the breath is what matters here. And for the last part of what we're doing, maybe one more cycle, extending the airflow, and always watching that you're not overdoing that, where you're clutching at the breath. And then coming to a stop, and the arms are relaxed, and the shoulders relaxed. And take a moment, you're in a version of Tadasana as we pause here, and feel that grounding through the lower part of your body, your feet, your ankles, your legs, even your hips. And then the spine ascending right through the neck and the crown of the head. Shoulders relaxed. All right, we're going to take a lying down position on your mat. And very simple movement once you're settled. Feet on the floor near to your buttocks. Step your feet apart. We'll do a rotation for your spine. Feet wide apart, knees apart. Take your arms out to the side so you've got space there. Now we drop the knees to the right side, look to the left. Knees back up, knees to the left, look to the right. Let the movements be small and focused as you begin. We'll do several cycles like this so you develop a cadence which incorporates the breath. If you go slowly here and we do that movement to one side, you're extending the opposite side and opening up the lungs, the ribs, the waist, the side of your hip. You might have deepened the movement by now. You can hold a little bit on one side, stretch the knee away from you. The other side, short holding, stretching the knee. And we're going to finish in a moment and then step your feet in closer, hip width apart, and draw your shoulders down. Let's move on to warming up the spine in some extensions, and we'll incorporate bridge pose, but just with the breath initially. So now inflate the lungs, take a deep breath in, open the chest, and then exhale the breath. And as you've been doing, right down into the abdominal muscles and the pelvic floor. Inhale, open the sides of the rib cage to the breath. And exhaling, using your core muscles. Without even lifting the hips at all into your baby back bend, this movement rotates the base of your spine. So you're doing pelvic tilts and just animated by the breath. And now we're ready to move on with the lifting of the hips. So on an inhalation, plant your feet. Inhale, lift the hips a little. Exhale, lower back down until the pelvis is resting again. Let's go through those movements. So keep a nice grounding through your feet, lifting up. The chest moves towards the head a little bit more. And exhaling, there's the tilting of the pelvis and lowering right down to the sacrum and the buttocks. Keep going like that. And perhaps moving into being able to extend the spine a little bit more on each cycle. The next time that you lift up, hold that lift, feel your footing, the whole footprint into the mat, and then roll your arms out, just as you were doing in the breathing exercise, right up to the tops of your arms into the shoulder joint. And then as you exhale, turn your arms over so the palms are downward. And when you rest the buttocks, the palms are pressing down too. Let's do 2 cycles like that, incorporating the arms, and the hips come up and the arms rotate out. And feel the full extension of your spine, and then exhale and lowering down, and the hands turn over, just like that. One more cycle. See if you can extend the airflow a little bit more, but not so much that you're gushing the breath out when you exhale. And then we'll wait there on that lowering of the hips. Palms are down. Pause, consolidate. And then let's incorporate one counterposing twist. Bend one knee into your chest, second knee into your chest. Nuzzle your lower back and your shoulder blades into the mat. And then the arms slightly away from the sides of the body. Let's take the knees right. Keep a really coiled curl of your knees towards you and head towards the opposite direction, and then turning the other way. What will help you keep safe in the pose, so you're not over rotating, is to keep the opposite shoulder blade on the floor. You take the knees to one side, the opposite shoulder blade, the outer edge of it is still anchored. Let's go 2 more cycles. Knees come right up towards the upper part of the arm. The core muscles are engaged once more. And let's finish in the center. And 2 feet on the floor. Draw the shoulders down, relax your shoulders. And then let's make one of those smooth and controlled transitions to come up into cat pose. And rolling on to the one side, use your hands to help you come up. And all fours kneeling. Once you're set up like that, open the spacing between your fingers. Just enjoy the stretch of all of your digits. Open up your thumbs. And I've got my elbows slightly behind the line of my wrists, not to overextend my wrists. And then straighten the arms. Knees are a little bit behind the line of the buttocks. And cat pose, cow pose, is a perfect warm-up for the spine for any back bending. So we'll go through that range of movement. On an inhalation, lift your chest and look outwards. On an exhalation, bring your chin in and lift the arcing of the spine up towards the ceiling. Inhale, squeeze your shoulder blades slightly as you look out and move your chest forward. Exhale, use your core muscles and right down to the lowest part of your torso. Let's go back and forth like that, from opening the chest and dipping the spine to lifting the spine and drawing the chin in. Feel the motivation here with the breath on both phases of the breath. And what gets you moving is more the breath rhythm than the mechanical movement of the structure of the body. Let's just go one more cycle. And then pausing with the spine in neutral, meaning that it's parallel with the floor. And then giving the wrists a rest. Draw your buttocks back towards your heels, lower your elbows. And sitting your buttocks back neatly as far as they'll go, rest your elbows, rest your shoulders, rest your wrists. And then rock forward again and supporting yourself. We can move into downward facing dog pose and tuck your toes under. Lift your knees first, lift up through the upper part of your spine, and then begin to stretch. Let's be kind on our hamstrings, which haven't gotten much work so far. So step your feet as wide as your mat. Good. Soften your knees a little bit, soften behind your knees, and take the stretch into your upper spine and your shoulders. Move them back. Move the buttock bones up. And feel the motivation of your breath again. Take a break and knees down, buttocks back, rest your elbows. Take a couple of deeper breaths there. And let's keep moving and coming up again. As you coil your toes under, lift from the abdominal muscles and back into dog pose. Let's do the version with your knees bent. So step your feet into hip width distance. Your hands are shoulder width distance. Then soften your knees and create an angle behind your knees. Not quite 45 degrees, but a considerable angle there. And give your hips that kind of raking movement where the buttock bones are lifting right up towards the ceiling. Stretch your shoulders for all you're worth or for as much as you like. Bring your chin in, relax the back of your neck, and let your head hang heavily. Good. And then working towards hamstring stretch, lower your heels, and just notice how close your heels are to the floor. We're not particularly goal-minded there, but you might be able to stretch a little bit more through the back of your leg and your Achilles. Look at the crease at the front of your ankle and move back from there, from the front ankle to the heel. Time to take a break again. You've been weight bearing, you've been strengthening your upper arm muscles. Drop your elbows, drop your head. One more in this cycle of dog poses. Come up, tuck your toes, lift from your core muscles, push up and back. Looking back at your feet, come up onto the backs of your toes or the balls of your feet. Lift your heels high as you can. And then from here, stretch as much as you like from your heel to your buttock bones, through the backs of your knees, through your hamstrings, lifting the buttock bones high. Good. And then enjoy that sensation of the buttocks being able to lift and open towards the ceiling here. And then keep the buttocks high as you can as you lower your heels. Lowering the heels. Good. Notice if you were able to get the heels down a little bit lower. I know for some stretchy people you're all the way down. You could lift your toes and then move back from the front of your ankle again. All right, this time let's take child's pose. Bend your knees down, open your knees out, swing your feet together, and then when you lower your elbows this time, draw them all the way back towards your knees. Fold your hands, rest your head onto your hands if you're there. You might have a block to rest your head on, or fold your hands into light fists and rest your head onto the top hand. The great thing here is that you can let go of your shoulders. You can let them just drop out. You can let your shoulder blades drop out. All effort, letting go. Take your time and come up to standing. Good. And then just standing on your mat in Tadasana, give yourself a few shoulder rolls. Good. So in Tadasana, I have my feet a little bit apart. It seems to give me more stability. So either feet together, legs together, feet slightly apart. And let's work into a few of our chair poses that we've been incorporating to build in some strength through the lower body. So let's take the hands into the top of the thighs, the bottom of the torso, where the hip crease is, and then just press in there lightly until you come into a slight squat. So in that slight squat that you've created, move your knees back slightly until you can see the whole of your foot, the top of your foot. And then let's add the arm movement and bring the arms up just to the side of your ears, the front of your ears. And extend well into the tips of your fingers. If your shoulders are tight or stiff, or maybe a little bit sore, you might take a wider position like a V shape to your arms, or the arms parallel, and then sitting the buttocks right back, imagining the chair there for your comfort. And then releasing back to standing and arms come down. And just check that you haven't been tensing your shoulders. Let's go again. Arms come up, sitting back with a slight squat, moving the hips back. And then glance down at the front of your knees, at the patellas, and see if you can bring them back a little bit further. Careful not to overbalance, but more weight really strong through your heel bones. Feel that. Feel that. Feel your core muscles, that deep crease at the front of your hips. And then this time, bend your elbows and bring your elbows in slightly back behind the sides of your waist and feel your upper back engage. Feel your shoulder blades moving in towards the center of your spine. That's a movement that we use in back bending to open up the dorsothoracic. Squeeze a little bit through your armpits. Re-extend your arms, come all the way up. And then happily release your arms down and relax. Let's incorporate a twist with the chair pose. Bring your hands into prayer position in front of your chest. Lift your elbows, and then come into your partial squat. Let's say you look to the right side, turn to the right side. There's the beginning of your twist. Can you deepen your squat? Lift your elbow, and then bring the left side across towards the right and hook your elbow on the outside of your thigh or the outside of your knee. Now we're pretty twisted up here, but you're looking towards the right side. Right elbow is lifting, and the abdominal muscle is squeezing a little bit to that side. And then let's unravel and come all the way up to where we started, and straight legs and hands still in prayer position in front of the chest. Side 2. Bend from the hip fold, draw the hips back. Come down a little bit lower if that's there for you. Look to the left side, Turn your whole body, turn your rib cage, turn your abdominal muscles. And then if you're down there low enough, see if you can hook your elbow to the outside of the thigh or the knee. Lift the top elbow, turn from the dorsal thoracic. Keep breathing. It's possible to keep breathing. And then coming up in one swoop all the way up to standing. Good work. And then relax your arms. I think in that spirit of strengthening, let's work on your toes a little bit, and we'll incorporate that in chair pose too. So, starting 2 feet on the ground, feel your footprint. Bring your hands and your arms up and out and extend them. Let's see if you can take some of the weight of the torso off of the lower body by stretching the arms fully. Stretch the little finger side of your hand. And then rock a little forward. Begin to lift your heels and come towards the backs of the toes. So you're doing a heel raise here, testing your balance. And still with your heels raised, coming all the way up to standing and lowering arms and heels at the same time. Well, I've noticed that that's a warming pose as well as a test for my balance. And we'll call that a dress rehearsal and then repeat what we've done. And sitting the hips back through the crease at the front of the hips, bring the arms up. Good. And then coming forward slightly, knees come forward, heels come up. Good, you're still breathing. And keep the heels up as you lift up, and arms come down at the slow rate that you lower your heels. That wasn't very slow. That's all right. Okay, very good. Let's take Warrior One pose, which is a good pose for warming up for back bends. And we'll do it in a kind of methodical way. So, standing with right foot forward, left foot back. So, in the instructions that we get in yoga, we're told to square the hips, but just bring your hands onto your hips and see if they're level. So as much as you want them square, you want them to be level too. And then let's take a lunge with the right leg. And as you do that, just glance down at the front of the right knee. Can you still see your right foot? So draw the kneecap back, draw the thigh bone back into the hip until it feels like you're more engaged in the leg muscles, the right leg muscles. And then on the back leg, tone the left buttock, tone the left hamstring, so that leg is beginning to fully stretch. And then hold that momentum from the lower body. Bring the arms up, just as you did for Utkatasana, chair pose, and keep the arms slightly in front of the ears. Then pitch forward slightly from your hips. And even though you're extending the arms out, extending the side body out, keep the right knee back and that strong support from the back leg. Good. And then release the hands to the hips. Come right up, straighten the front leg. Step left foot to right. Right foot back. And spend a little bit of time. Tidy up, hips, level and square. Bend your leg. Good. And right from the beginning here, the left knee is a little bit to the left, but you're drawing that thigh bone back into its joint, into the hip socket. Good. Feel the back leg strong, and then add the arm movement. Lean out slightly away from the pelvis. Extend the arms fully. Extend the little finger side of the hand more. Reach out. Reach back with the right leg. Feel that right leg like a guy wire holding you firmly. And releasing hands to the hips. Inhale and come up. Step right foot to left. And let's repeat. And left foot back. All right, we know the pathway for the pose now, for the most part. Let's start with the arms up. Inhale, arms up. Bend the front leg. Good. So if you come into that pitched forward position, your lower back will be stretched more. If you want to challenge yourself into more of a back bend for the upper part of the back, bring the arms back behind the line of the ears slightly. Feel the upper back muscles engage. Back leg strong again. Stretch from the back of your left knee to your heel. Good. Reach up. And then if it's an easy movement for your neck, look up. Chin up. Looking up at your thumbs. Really extending through the fingers. And release. Hands to your hips. Step up. And other side. Good. Here we go. We know the pathway. We'll bend the front leg, raise the arms at the same time. Good. And then from there, if you want to get a little bit more work into your upper part of your back, bring your arms back. Tilt your chin up. Keep that back leg strong. Feel that buttock. Feel the back of the leg. And arms and come down. Straight leg. Step up. Now, let's have one more go in a manner that challenges your balance. So, same pose. Right foot forward, left foot back, warrior one, Virabhadrasana 1. Then on your back foot, lift your heel and spin on that heel, on the ball of the foot, and have the left foot toes facing forward. Good. Once you've done that, hands onto your hips, relax your shoulders, and then flex your front knee. So you're taking a lunge, but with a difference. Feel that in the right buttock as you draw your thigh bone back into its hip. Turn the left hip forward. And even though the back heel is raised, extend that back leg, buttock to heel. And then let's complete the pose. And when you lower the arms, straighten the leg and step all the way up. And last side. Good. Take a little time for setting up. You're not needing to rush yourself here. And it's better if you take that time rather than being wobbly in the pose. So feel on your front foot. You've got strong footprint. The back heel's raised now, and you're bringing the hip forward. Bend the front knee. Draw the femur back into its hip. And completing the pose with the arms up and chest up and chin up. Feel as you extend the arms, the outer shoulder blades towards the outer elbows. Good. And completing, and chin level with the ground, hands to your hips. Step all the way up and shake a leg. I don't know if that does any good, but it feels, I don't know, kind of releasing. Okay, good work. Let's move into the baby back bends as promised. So take a lying down position onto your mat, belly down. I think if you like, you could have a blanket across the mat to rest your hips on. Now take that position. So let's start in the most relaxed way. Once your hips are supported and the front body supported and the legs, then fold your arms and rest your head onto your folded hands. Either side of your head or forehead onto your hands. And let go your shoulders. Do a little hip rock, side to side. Check the buttock muscles from the beginning here are relaxed. And in a moment, we're simply moving into Sphinx pose. So bend your elbows, come up onto your elbows and your forearms, and look at your hands. The Sphinx has claws there. Stretch and open all of your fingers like you did in dog pose, and balance the weight between your hands, your wrists, and your elbows. So you've lifted up already into a partial back bend. Let's support that with the lower body. Tuck your toes under. Then lift your knees and straighten your legs. Feel the tailbone curling down towards the floor and the chest opening forward. Now support that movement by squeezing the armpits lightly. And then from the upper part of the spine, moving up through the neck, the base of the skull, the crown of the head. Pubic bones pressing down, but navel is lifting up. There's a lot of elements there, but they're all towards making a safe and opening pose. And then let's come down, take a rest. If there was any effort in that for you, to whatever degree, then take some deeper breaths, relaxed. And let's come up for the second round. And elbows supporting. And just adding one more detail. So toes tuck under, knees lift up, buttocks are firmed, pubic bone pressing down, navel up, all of that. And in addition, get a sense that you can pull your elbows back towards your waist. Create a pulling action, your palms, your wrists, your elbows back towards your waist. And allow for that to let you project your chest forward. Feel your collarbones opening. Just looking straight forward towards the horizon, moving your chest that way. And Sphinx pose complete now. Come down, take a rest. And especially letting effort drop out of your shoulders, your shoulder blades. So we might be well placed now to move into Cobra pose, Bhujangasana. And to that end, bring your hands onto the mat just out from your shoulders or just underneath your shoulders. Just let your head or your chin rest onto the floor. And then lengthen the spine by drawing the tailbone away from the upper part of the spine towards that space between your heels. And then move your elbows back towards your waist. The elbows are lifted, unlike Sphinx, but you're extending triceps from shoulder to elbow, moving the elbows back. And then coil your toes, lift your knees, firm your buttocks. They're firm but not clenched. And then lift the navel away from the floor. Come up to any height that you're prepared to do that. And move the shoulder blades closer to the spine. And then really the focus should be on the dorsal thoracic, the spine, and move the spine up to the base of the neck, to the base of the skull. At the same time, extend the tailbone back and shoulders back. And then begin to release, exhaling, letting go of effort, and resting for several breaths. And then let's repeat. Place the hands, if you like, a little further back, so the heel of the hand might line up with the nipple line, or where you were before, or a little bit forward. So, toes under, knees up, buttocks engaged, coming up, a little bit at a time. And as much as the body is willing to, or you would like to, coming up, elbows in, and lift and open the collarbones to the shoulders. And exhale and come down. And let's take a complete break now. And very gently, very gingerly coming into a relaxed child's pose. It takes a little while for the spine to uncoil and stretch again. But I'd like for us to do one more small back bend. So let's stretch out again. All right. And then these are the really simple back bends. And they can progress to being quite strenuous work for you. But really, it's mitigated by how much effort you put in. So let's put a little effort into the setup for this. And the pose is Shalabhasana. So as you've drawn your legs together, your feet together, legs straight back behind you this time, bring your arms along the side of your body and your elbows straight, palms down. Anchor your position through the lower part of your torso. Feel your pubic bone down. Lift your navel up. And then simply raise your right leg. As you raise your right leg, anchor the left leg and the front of the right hip. So it's not a big lift, but it's a stable lift. Lift up more on the inside of your right knee, the inside of your right foot, So that leg is turned in. And release back down. And then keeping the right leg straight and stable, raise the left leg. Make that lift from the inner leg, left leg, and keep the left hip in contact with the floor. Good. And then releasing that leg down. Pause. Just rock a little bit hip to hip. Keep the legs strong, the pelvis anchored, and we'll work with the upper body. With the palms facing upwards this time, the thumb is next to the thigh. Then just merely lift your head a little, roll your shoulders back. Feel into the upper part of your back, shoulder blades towards the center spine, and lift up the corners of your chest a little bit more, the top front corners of your chest. Initially, you're coming up a little, then come up any amount, but keep your lower body strong. And then finally, lift your arms. See if there's a little more scope for you to lift the front chest. And exhale to the ground and resting. Good work. Just feel the back open, the middle of the back open, the lower back open. And let's combine all those movements and head facing forward. And starting with the lower back, the lower body supporting you, hips to legs and feet, and working with the upper body and coming up a little, then more, then your arms. And finally, if it's there for you, then complete the pose, a whole body pose, and lift the legs. And keep the ribs and the hips, front hips, in contact with the mat. And then lowering down, then fold your arms in, rest your head onto your folded hands, head to the side or forehead, whatever helps you relax your shoulders, your back muscles, your buttocks. All right, and as though you were going to do Cobra again, Bhujangasana, bring your hands back underneath your shoulders, elbows into your side, press your hands, lift your chest, and then once more fold back into child's pose. Go very slowly into it. You're moving from back bend and straight into forward bend. Keep your arms straight forward in child's pose, and the elbows are straight. And lengthen your arms as much as you can, but also lengthen from your side body. It's helpful to move out from the sides of your shoulder blades, the outer elbows. And at the same time drawing back tailbone towards the floor. And let's make this into a slight rotation. So walk your hands around to the right side. Step your hands, lift your chest, move your chest around to the right side. Bring your left hand onto your right hand And stay lifted in your chest. Lift your top front chest and look at your hands, one hand on top of the other, and lengthen that side of your body as much as you can. Then lift up and draw the ribs over to the right side. Turn to the right side. When you do that, then draw back through your left hip. Bring your chin in towards your chest. Take several breaths there. Take a walk around to the other side. Good. You want to keep your chest elevated here so there's more potential for rotating. And then right hand on left hand. This side's a little tighter for me, so I'm just going to have to work to extend the right hip back towards the floor. Chest is up, turning the belly muscles, the core muscles to the left side. And then when you've done that, releasing the head to whatever you can towards the floor. Good. And then come all the way back in. And let's come up through dog pose. But mainly to standing. Walk your hands in and come on up. Notice if it's easier for you to breathe once you've done that work that incorporates your upper back and your chest. I'm bringing my block into play here. And shortly we'll move into some inversions. But before we do, let's take a stance with your feet apart and grab your block. I think this is called Parvita Uttanasana, or kind of a twisting forward fold. Bring your block out at a reach from you, the distance that you can reach your arm forward. So let's say right hand onto the block, and it's out in front of your right foot. And then lean out a little bit so that you can rest the heel of your hand onto the top of your block. And allow yourself to come into a deeper forward bend. You did that work in your back bends, and partly it was helped. It was abetted by using your hamstrings, tightening your hamstrings. So take a moment to release the hamstrings into stretch now, back of your knee to your buttock. And let's move into the rotation. So flex your right elbow slightly. Bring your left arm across to hold the outside of your right calf muscle. When you've done that, keep your left forearm parallel with the floor so your elbow's bent. And then look underneath your right arm to the right and turn and rotate your body to the right. So how do you do that? You pull a little bit with your left hand, keep your left elbow flexed and moving to the right elbow flexed and moving to the right. Good. Last part, turning the belly muscles, turning your navel to the right side. Good. Back to center and looking straight down. Move the block across. Set yourself up and right hand grab the left leg, just the calf muscle, bend that elbow, that forearm is parallel with the floor, and then looking underneath the left arm to the left, and drawing the torso around to the left side. Notice what a difference it makes if you keep your feet grounded. So 2 feet on the ground, turning. Good. And then come right back to center. Place the block in front of you, and it's on the upright heel of the hand there. Lift up. Let's do concave uttanasana. Draw your chest out away from your legs. Your trunk is pretty much parallel with the floor. Lead with your breastbone. Draw the corners of your collarbones back. And firm the shoulder blades nearer to the spine and towards the front of your lungs. Look out, strengthen the legs, and then completing that movement, flex your knees a little bit and begin to drop to standing and all the way up. Okay, good. And then let's do a version of shoulder stand. So we get an opportunity to do an inversion. And I think that at the beginning of the session I mentioned we didn't need to use the wall, but I was wrong. I forgot about this pose. So I've got a bolster here, and I'm going to place it near to the wall, a long ways away from the wall. And let me demonstrate for you. In setting myself up onto the bolster, I'm seated onto the bolster, and I don't know exactly how close to the wall I should be. My bolster is a couple of inches away from the wall, and this is one of those poses you have to tailor for your anatomy, your height, but also your ability to support the lower spine. So I've set up in a reclining position where I'm close enough to the wall to elevate my feet onto the wall. And the angle of my legs is probably 45 degrees. My lower back is supported onto the end of the bolster, and that is my lumbar area, my sacrum, my buttocks. Then when I've done that, I can let go, let my shoulders be supported, my arms out to the side. And pretty much I've done this before, I've got it in my first go. If it doesn't feel quite right for you, then it probably isn't. So take a little time and see whether you can get there where your back feels supported and without ache in the lower back. And you've got that slight inversion that allows the blood flow towards the heart, the venous blood flow towards the heart. If this particular pose doesn't work for you at all, then what you might consider doing is just doing legs up the wall, and even without any support necessarily. But I do want us to be able to do an inversion in this practice. So you've got there wherever you've arrived. And wherever that is at the moment, then tuck your shoulders under, your shoulder blades under, so that your chest is still open and kind of nicely and neatly open from the back bend work that we did. Where your arms are placed, they can be like Shavasana and just a comfortable distance from the side of your body. Or if you want more challenge and possibly more opening for your chest, then your arms can be placed in a overhead movement on the floor. And I'm going to go for that at this time. That little bit of pressure that you have from being inverted and onto your upper part of your back and your shoulders. Focus on relaxing your shoulders, relaxing the back muscles, the upper back. And then also soften the lower ribs. At the front floating ribs, where the diaphragm is, soften those ribs so there's no pressure from them flaring. They're more incorporated into the lower body. Take a quiet moment and experience the kind of energetic feeling of this particular pose. It falls into that category of being more sedative and calming. And we're about to move out of the inversion, and let's stage that. So as you lower your feet from the wall, you can just place them onto the bolster or the sides of the bolster. And instead of rolling off to the side, push back away from the wall and lower your buttocks to the floor. That's quite nice if the bolster is close to you, just to lift your feet back up onto the bolster. So buttocks on the floor, upper body supported. And in just a further minute, we're going to move into the yoga relaxation. So take what you need for that. I just have a folded blanket to support the back of my head and my neck. Let's start, if you haven't done this, with your feet on the floor and near to your buttocks. So that's a good beginning. And you can lift your buttocks off the floor and move your tailbone towards your heels. Then replacing your buttocks and your lower back onto the floor. Let it soften. And do something similar with your arms out to the side. Press the backs of your hands slightly in your forearms and lift your back chest a fraction off the floor. And then when you let it go and drop again, let the back widen, the shoulder blades widen, and then extend one leg out, second leg out. The feet, the legs, the hips falling out. Readjust your head and your neck support if you need to, so you're at your most comfortable. By now, it's likely you've closed your eyes, or covered your eyes with a soft covering. It doesn't necessarily mean that your eyes are relaxed. So take this time now to relax the eyelids over your eyes and the eyes back into their hollows, sinking back and allowing for the eyes to become unfocused and gradually unmoving. And in a similar way, relaxing the forehead, the temples, and allowing the brain to relax back from the forehead. All the tiny muscles, the tension of the forehead, broadening. There's no pressure of the brain towards the forehead, releasing it back into the back of the skull, the base of the skull. Eyes soft, dropping down, looking down, following the breath. And if you're anything like me, your mind tends to wander, or you might drift off. So bring your mind very gently back into a focus. The focus can be the breath again. Think of the breath now as being a way that you can reemerge, some deeper inhalations and exhalations. And then bending up one leg, the second leg, rolling onto the side, and waiting there in no particular hurry. And taking all the time that you need or you want to come up to a seated position. And if you like, bring your hands together in prayer position over your heart, or your hands folded over your heart. I like to think of this time as being when we gather our energy that we've funded from doing the practice, gathering our energy to go off into the other activities of our day, to share our practice with other people. So feel into your own goodwill that you generate from doing yoga. And then in that spirit of sharing our yoga practice, and mentally, emotionally, spiritually sending it out into the universe. Namaste. Thank you.